Bear with me with the lighting. The natural light is playing with me today, but this is what we got to work with. This is what God gave us, so we gonna make it work. So what is the FTC? What is COPPA? And why is everyone on YouTube seem to be freaking out about it? That's what we're talking about today.
COPPA, FTC, COPPA, advertising laws.
Some of its individual channels, such as toy review channels, are child-directed, meaning they must comply with COPPA. And specifically here, the concern was around personalized ads.
First, I do believe that this regulation is going to cause more harm than good for kids.
How do creators know whether their video is a child video under the FTC rules or not?
The problem is, made for kids is the vaguest, most subjective thing in the world.
I personally don't make kids content, but you never know when it's left up to an algorithm or a computer to make that decision for you.
Agreed. The fact is that they didn't know that targeted advertising pays differently than non-targeted advertising. They assumed it was the same rate.
Everyone thinks that this is YouTube's new rule. It is not. It is our government's rule. This is the law being revised.
Most importantly, we need to spread awareness of this massive sledgehammer that's gonna be hitting our channels and, more importantly, our communities in literally 1 month.
So I did a lot of research about what the FTC is and what COPPA is because I was genuinely curious. I like doing the research behind sort of what's happening in the world right now, especially when there's only one narrative of what a problem is. I like to be able to see both sides of the story, do my own research, formulate my own opinions, and I'm gonna share that with you. So I'm gonna go over the facts first, then I'm gonna go into the lawsuit, the YouTube/Google lawsuit with COPPA, and then I'm also gonna discuss possible solutions that I thought of that might help the platform going forward. I have no, credentials to speak about any of these things, but I'm just really interested. So here we go. I have my notes on my laptop down here, so I'm gonna be looking down a lot. So what is the FTC? So the FTC stands for the Federal Trade Commission. Well, here is their mission statement. It says, our mission is protecting consumers in competition by preventing anti-competitive, deceptive, and unfair business practices through law enforcement, advocacy, and education without unduly burdening legitimate business activity. So what does that mean? I got you. I found this video online about the history of the Federal Trade Commission so I could actually figure out what that actually meant. So the FTC began in 1914. That's the time when a lot of US businesses were turning into monopolies. So we had like the oil business, like the railroad business, but basically these monopolies were taking over the US economy, and the FTC was formed to break up these trusts so that other businesses and small businesses could get chances in the industry.
With no competition, people had no choice concerning from whom to buy. Prices went through the roof, and quality, well, it wasn't a priority. This caused hardship and threatened the new American prosperity.
What does the FTC do specifically? Found another video. Who is this by? I don't even know. Lawline CLE. Someone who seems professional.
The Federal Trade Commission Act dates back to 1914, so it's been on the books for over 100 years. The FTC has authority to police unfair competition and, for present purposes, unfair and deceptive trade practices and acts. It also has authority to enact regulations and to enforce COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act.
The FTC went from more so focusing on trust and unfair business practices to now like privacy protection and like consumer protection. So to give you some specific examples, I went onto the FTC's website and found some like examples of complaints you can file to the FTC. FTC can deal with robocalls or spam calls. They can deal with imposter, scam, or impersonation. They also can deal with fake checks, fraud messages asking for your money to get prize as a result. Like, you know those things where it's like, give me $10,000 and I'll get you an iPad. Those things that are not legit, the FTC can also deal with those. FTC can deal with credit card fraud, and educational institution fraud. So those are just some examples of things you can file to the FTC, but you can all see this on their website at ftc.gov. It's an official government website. So what is COPPA? So COPPA was introduced in 1998 by the Federal Trade Commission when the internet was arising and children began using it independently. So this law, even though it was introduced in 1998, it became effective in the year 2000. And basically the law was started to protect children under the age of 13. That's what a child is defined as in the United States. So what I'm about to read to you right now is a release that was released in April 20th, 1999 about COPPA. The Federal Trade Commission today issued a proposed rule designed to protect the privacy of children who surf the internet. The proposed rule, which would apply to certain commercial websites, is the first step to implementation of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998, or COPPA. The main goal of the statute and the proposed rule is to put parents in control of information collected online from children under 13. Under the proposed rule, sites must give parents a choice as to whether their child's information can be disclosed to third parties and give parents a chance to prevent further use or future collection of personal information from their child. So essentially, what COPPA means, you cannot collect personal information or data from children in the United States. And a child in the US is defined as any individual who is under the age of 13. And we'll get into what private information means. And in 1998, this is one of the ways, this is kind of blown up a little bit recently, but this is how commercial sites were recommended to comply with COPPA. Once again, keep in mind, this is 1998. The internet was nowhere where it is right now in 1998. So I'm gonna read this verbatim from the FTC website. Possible options are 1. A consent form to be signed by the parent and returned to the operator by postal mail, or I don't even know what that word is. Number 2, the use of a credit card by the parent. Number 3, a toll-free telephone number that parents could call and or number 4, an email accompanied by a valid digital signature.
But the original writing of this law is, it's laughable. Literally, they have to send a permission slip for a website through the mail and then fax it in to the good people who are working at YouTube, who will put you in their little file folder of, I'm sure, the millions to billions of people using the website. I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, and she told me that sometimes she's trying to explain YouTube to lawmakers who literally don't own a cell phone. People making laws on this stuff don't own cell phones in 2019.
So, yeah. Once again, that was in 1998. Basically, a lot of ways that you can see how this is hard to work with in 2019 YouTube. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the COPPA lawsuit. What actually happened? What actually went down? What was the actual problem that COPPA had with YouTube? That I feel like gets very misconstrued with the media. So this is the details of the lawsuit. On September 4th, 2019, YouTube was fined $170 million by the FTC and the New York Attorney General for improperly managing data which they collected for children under the age of 13, which violates COPPA. So there it was an FTC conference that talked about the settlement with Google and YouTube, because both LLCs were, they're not LLCs, but both companies were fined. Oh, actually, isn't LLC? I need to brush up on my business vocabulary. The chairman of the FTC, his name is Joe Simons, he spoke about the lawsuit in the press conference, and he said,
"The COPPA rule applies differently to third parties serving behavioral ads versus creators of child-directed content. While the content creators are strictly liable for COPPA compliance, third parties are subject to COPPA's requirements only where they have actual knowledge that the website or service they're serving the ads to is child-directed."
YouTube cannot bury its head in the sand. YouTube cannot pretend that it's not aware of the content on its platform and hope to escape liability for COPPA. YouTube is going to be explicitly held liable for complying with COPPA where it has actual knowledge of the content. YouTube is going to be required to seek out that actual knowledge through requiring content creators and channel owners to specifically designate whether they are directed to children. And as the chairman noted, not only can we sue Google and YouTube for compliance with COPPA, but also individual channel owners and content creators. And once this order has been fully implemented, we intend to conduct a sweep of the YouTube platform to determine whether there remains child-directed content on the platform with respect to which personally identifiable information continues to be collected.
Basically, this specific lawsuit, like this specific issue with COPPA, is not about kids under 13 seeing inappropriate content on YouTube, which I feel like that has been kind of misconstrued a lot. Kids being on YouTube. The actual thing that YouTube and Google are being sued for by the FTC is that they were tracking personal information from children to serve them personalized ads when they watch YouTube videos or when they... So YouTube's the biggest one. They were not allowed to do that for children. This specific issue is not about children under 13 seeing inappropriate YouTube content. This is about YouTube cannot track kids' data to serve personal ads to them because they are children. And also, I remember this specific example from Shane Dawson's Jake Paul series. If you remember, he did a documentary about Jake Paul. I remember this one specific episode. He talked about, it was kind of problematic the way Jake Paul advertises his merchandise in his videos. He made the comparison that when you watch, say, SpongeBob, for example, you watch part of the show and then you have an ad break. But the ad break isn't SpongeBob. The ad break is something different. But with what happens with YouTube, and in this particular case, Jake Paul, is he was promoting himself, like his videos would basically be ads. It's not right because kids don't really know the difference at that age between content and between advertising. They're impressionable, they're young. This is something that can be scientifically proven. So we can't be serving kids advertisements in that capacity. So I actually went to Twitter and I asked if there's anything specific that anyone wanted to know specifically about this whole COPPA lawsuit situation and how it affects YouTube. And I got a tweet saying that they wanted to know, what does personal information mean and what does data mean? Like, what are they actually tracking from children that is getting YouTube in trouble? YouTube and Google, I should say, because both of them were sued. So according to the FTC's website, personal information is things like first and last name, a home or other physical address, online contact information, a screen name or username that functions as online contact information. I'll come back to that. A telephone number, social security number, a persistent identifier, which can be used to recognize a user over and over across different websites or online services. And what that means, what a personal identifier is basically cookies. You know how you go onto different websites and they say, we use cookies to serve you personalized ads. And it says a button usually, and it has accept, and you have to click it before proceeding to their website. That is what a personal identifier is. A photograph, video, or audio file where such file contains a child's image or voice, geolocation, or information concerning a child or the parents of that child that the operator collects online from the child and combines with an identifier described above. Going back to one of the earlier bullet points on the list, is they said a screen name or a username that functions as online contact information. I thought it was interesting because YouTube, we have screen names or usernames, and I see how that can be a violation. I was thinking maybe somebody could get in contact with them that's not supposed to through that. So that's another idea that I had of how YouTube could have violated this law. Obviously the cookies, that's a given. I'm not sure about the screen names, but that's another thing I thought I'd bring to your guys' attention.
I don't really think I explained this part well the first time around. So basically what I was trying to say is that this is one theory I had for maybe one of the reasons YouTube could have been removing comments from Made for Kids content. I talk more about the features that YouTube's removing later on in the video, but I'm sure y'all have already heard about it. So yeah, that's the reason I brought up the whole screen name thing.
I can see where lines kind of get blurry there and how the violation could have come. So I wanted to also talk about, going back to the cookies in the personal information, what data was YouTube collecting? Because obviously YouTube was not collecting everything on this list of personal information that's listed out by the FTC. You know, YouTube's not necessarily collecting your phone number, your social security number, but the screen name, I see how that can go. But I also wanted to look into what information YouTube is actually collecting, since the information was used to serve personalized ads. So you can find out this information like yourself by going to your YouTube account, by clicking on your icon, by going into your data in YouTube and ads personalization. So I actually have mine pulled up right here. And this is actually not my gaming account. Like, this is not the account that you're watching this video on right now, but I want to show you like the type of information they've collected from me to serve personalized ads to. So it says I'm 35 to 44 years old, which that's a lie, but I lied for my age so I could actually have an account because YouTube is a 13+ site. I'm a female. Yeah, I gave them that when I made the account. YouTube, I'm not sure what this means. There says YouTube, Rakuten, and the author incubator. What I believe this is, because I see Rakuten right here, is, you know, on YouTube when you get those ads that are like, which of the following would you consider buying from? And it might be like iPhone, Samsung, LG. If you answer those, I believe that gets added to information YouTube knows about you to serve you more ads. Because I remember answering one about Rakuten, because I just watched a video which was sponsored by Rakuten, and they asked me, which of these have you seen advertising for recently? And I answered Rakuten. So, and you have the option not to answer, but I answered that and it got added here, which I think is interesting. So now I know those little surveys is another way for YouTube to get to know you, your digital profile. Cameras and photo equipment, that's true. This is the account I mostly watch, like lifestyle content, anything that's not gaming, honestly. I do watch camera stuff, I do watch tech YouTubers, celebrities and entertainment news. I'd say that's true from some of the shows I watch. Colleges and universities, I thought that was interesting because I'm a college student. The fact that they know that on this account is interesting. Maybe I watch a lot of college videos, maybe that's why they assume that. Here's an interesting one. I have home improvement and I also have home ownership status, homeowners. I watch a lot of home improvement shows and home design. So I think that's interesting that they assume that I'm a homeowner because I consume that type of content. It kind of shows how YouTube's or Google's algorithm works naturally and how it's not always correct. So that's a thing, I guess, to keep in mind. They make that assumption. Okay, this is interesting. They have my state on here. Not actually the state that I live in, but the state that I go to school at. Earlier, I actually had the state that I live in was in there, but I removed it because you can remove the filters that they know about you. Like, I can turn this off if I want to, so I don't get served ads that have to do with my location. That I thought was really freaky. I mean, I was looking at this yesterday. Also, parenting is on here. Oh, marital status single. That's interesting. It's really kind of crazy about this is the type of information YouTube and Google is collecting from you, because it's not just YouTube, it's Google as well. We use Google on a daily basis to search for stuff. I understand like them tracking your interests so they can serve maybe interest-related content, but I get kind of skeptic when it comes to things like location, and my homeowner status, my marital status, age. You tell them that when you make your Google account, so that I understand. Same with gender. And also when you answer those YouTube surveys, I understand that because you gave them that information. Unless you turn ad personalization off, which that is an option. But there is also another caveat, which we'll get into that in a moment. I'm actually curious about what information they have tracked about my gaming channel, because I have not looked at this yet, so let's look at this together. 25 to 34 years old. Still not that old. Vista Sprint, literally have no idea what this is. Candy and sweets, I understand this because I do watch food channels. I'm subscribed to food channels. Carpooling and vehicle sharing. I'm guessing because I watch Carpool Karaoke, that's literally the first thing that comes to mind. I binge watch that because it's hilarious. It says I'm a homeowner again. Still has my location. Let's turn that off. That's still creepy to me, why they know my state. I know like Google has to know it like for certain things. You give them permission, but I don't want that to be retained information. This is interesting. It says my marital status is single, but it also says my parental status is not a parent, which is another interesting assumption. If Google can assume if I'm not a parent, it can probably assume if you are a child, or probably makes that assumption as well, which will come into play with the whole COPPA thing. This is interesting. So role-playing games, shooter games, I don't watch shooter games. Video game development, a lot of it's like similar things. I don't know. It has a state, which is wrong. I'm definitely not from this state, but I'm gonna turn that off as well. I'm wondering how it collected that information. I don't live there. Household income, lower middle. Ooh, that's interesting. On my other account, my household income was like upper middle or something like that. I suggest you guys look about what Google actually knows about you, and you can turn off some of these things, or you can turn off ad personalization altogether. Once again, there is a caveat, especially if you watch YouTube a lot, you support YouTubers. I'll get into that. But I can see where this is getting like, ooh, we can't have all this information about children. All right, so I'm going to talk about now how YouTube is striving to comply with COPPA in 2020. Obviously, they're collecting some iffy information, which you can see how it's problematic. This is what YouTube's doing about it because they paid their $170 million, but this is what the FTC is requiring YouTube to do now. So to identify kids' content, they're basically having every creator, anytime you upload a video on YouTube, you are now required to mark it as made for kids or not made for kids, no matter what creator you are, whether you're being paid for your content or not. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I'm sure y'all have already heard a lot of this, but what YouTube is basically doing is assuming that if you're watching content on YouTube that they perceive is kids content, those made for kids videos will not receive personalized ads, which are actually the ads that pay more. I saw somewhere on some video, I'll try to find it for you guys, but I know personalized ads pay more. The percentage, I believe it is 60 to 90% more than generalized ads. I'm not sure about that, but basically know that personalized ads pay more.
Let's talk real quick about the difference between personalized ads and contextualized ads and why that makes a difference as it relates to COPPA. A personalized ad is based on a user's online activities. So for example, YouTube can look at a user's viewing history and then match up ads to send them that align with their interests. That's how we make most of our money from YouTube. YouTube puts personalized ads on the content and then it splits the ad revenue with creators. By removing personalized ads from child-directed content, YouTube has said that this will have a significant business impact on creators. A contextualized ad is based on just what the viewer is watching at that time. This is more like a TV commercial where ads are placed on a specific TV show.
If you build your brand on this platform on YouTube, you could imagine how this affects creators. Their paycheck relies on these ads, and if they're a kid's channel, I don't know where they're going to get their money from, you know? They're going to have a decrease in revenue. Nobody can really sacrifice 60% of their paycheck to put it at a large scale. So that camera died, unfortunately. But we're just going to stick with this one because the card is full again. My other SD card's not working, and I don't got the patience. So, what is kids content? So kids content, according to YouTube, is anything that has an emphasis on children or children's characters, popular children's programming or animated characters, play acting or stories using children's toys, a child protagonist engaging in common natural play patterns such as play acting or imaginative play, popular children's songs, stories, or poems. And even if you look at the complaint, I read some of it, I didn't read all of it, but the initial complaint that is the lawsuit for YouTube, a lot of the channels that they're referencing are things like the official Barbie channel or like toy channels, things that are very blatantly kid content. But where the line kind of gets blurry and where especially gaming YouTubers are getting concerned is when it comes to things like animated characters or popular children's programming. So things like if you're a gamer, that might be considered a game. So that must be for kids. Because YouTube was also saying that to detect those people that are abusing the made for kids label, they're also going to use machine learning.
And the FTC can do that to get this, the tune of over $42,000 per video for any video that they feel has been miscategorized as not for kids, when in reality they feel like it was kids' content.
If you go to YouTube creators, like official YouTube channel, you'll see that they're answered a lot of fact about what's happening. One of the questions I thought I'd address here that I thought would be most relevant to like my demographic is this one question about Minecraft and gaming content. So it says, Q, does this impact Minecraft or gaming videos? Should gaming content be marked as made for kids? While different games appeal to different audiences, think about whether the content you created itself is directed towards kids, not just the audience of the game you're playing in a video alone. So basically that means don't just go off of what the video, like what the game is rated. So say the game is rated E for everyone, but if your content that you created off of that game is not E for everyone, then your video is not made for kids. And there are a lot of other polarizing things YouTube said they'd be taken away for made for kids content. Not just the personalized ads that pay more, but things like the notification bell. You won't be able, our viewers won't be able to add the video to watch later or other playlists. You won't have the communication tab. You won't have YouTube stories. You won't have info cards and end screens. And there's a possibility of memberships being taken away. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not, but that's another possibility. I haven't looked into that yet. YouTube can't collect these personal information from children, so there's assuming that views coming from children's content is a child, which makes more sense in that context why they're taking away all these features, because YouTube can't use this information about you. YouTube uses all these things to recommend stuff to you and to figure out what you like. Your psychographics, I learned that in college. So it makes sense, but you can see why this is concerning for people who make kids content. What makes YouTube is literally being taken away from them. We have to realize that protecting kids is important. I got 2 nephews. Parents all over the globe will be appreciative if you didn't track information about their child. It's illegal. There are a lot of reasons why this is coming into effect. I think a lot of people are just very angry and just have a lot of outrage, and it's understandable. If this is your business and this huge change is coming and you don't know how you're going to be affected, those adpocalypses in the past haven't really been seemed to be solved, and now we have something new that's coming. I completely understand why people are freaking out, but also YouTube has to go with the law. So that's why this is happening, because you cannot track kids' information. That's messed up. Do I think that the rules, the actions that YouTube and Google needs to take need to be refined? I do. I think the initial way they introduced it came off very polarizing, and it makes sense why people are upset.
Whenever kids are on YouTube and they're watching content that isn't designated as child-directed, they will still be seeing personalized ads just as before. And again, we know that a lot of what children are watching on YouTube is content that won't be designated as child-directed. While the FTC is concerned about the privacy issues around personalized ads, it doesn't appear that parents feel that big of a concern about it. And the intent of COPPA wasn't to make parenting decisions for parents. It was to put parents in control. I'm concerned that the regulation doesn't consider the responsibility of the parents. Parents knowingly hand the device to their child to watch on their account. This sounds a lot like consent to me. And penalizing creators who make content for children isn't the right solution. The best solution is for parents to learn about and choose to use the YouTube Kids app. It keeps parents in control and keeps off the personalized ads. And if parents don't want advertising at all on YouTube, they can use YouTube Premium. The law was supposed to put parents in control, but the way the FTC is regulating this is actually removing parents from the equation, at least as it relates to these personalized ads.
I actually listed out some potential solutions that I think would help possibly the issue that is at hand here. I think my biggest solution was have rating tiers for YouTube, almost like how you can rate a movie, you can rate a YouTube video. I would want to leave it up to the discretion mostly of the creator. So maybe you have made for kids or you have a kid friendly. I thought child friendly would be a good one, because maybe some of your content is not necessarily directed towards kids, but it's not like a kid couldn't watch it, but that's not the targeted demographic. There was actually a question about that on the YouTube creators page. I'll go find that real fast. See, look, Q, what if my content is applicable to a wide audience but not made for kids specifically? And then YouTube responds, think about who you were trying to reach with your content. Are you creating this specific content for children? Once again, if you go back to the complaint, they're mainly talking about the toy channels, toy unboxings. Obviously, I don't know, they kind of out of luck with this one, but I think they're mainly talking about those types of people where YouTube is not necessarily their main income, but it's consequently affecting people where YouTube is their income. And also, even if you don't monetize your content, all your made for kids stuff is going to be jacked up anyways. So I thought adding a child-friendly content filter might help YouTube not ping you. I would still want all the features to be there, but maybe it would help having some sort of tier system. So going back to the example with parents give their kid their phone, I was thinking maybe in that situation, just improve restricted mode.
I'm realizing as I'm editing this that everything I'm explaining is basically the point of YouTube Kids, but if parents are so inclined to use YouTube main, I thought adding a restricted mode would help in that situation.
How about you have something like that where if you're giving your child your phone, you put on restricted mode and maybe they can only watch child made for kids content and child friendly content. And you turn that on, and to turn that off, you need to put in your code so that the child's information's not being collected, but once restricted mode's off, it's back to like your content. That was my idea. Also, maybe adding a guest or incognito mode, I thought would be a way where they don't track your watch history. You can pause your watch history also. I don't know, those are kind of like my thoughts. Once again, I'm sorry my other camera just like went off. I hope you enjoyed this. I want to make more commentary videos, whether it's about stuff in real life or it's about like games in particular. What do you think about the whole FTC COPPA outrage? I hope you learned something from this. But yeah, I'll link my sources down below. Tell me what you think. What can we do going forward? A lot of content creators are speaking out about this whole issue, which is helping. A lot of these people making these laws don't know YouTubers. They may not know, they don't know the internet as much as us, which is why it is so important to have diversity in politics. I like politics, but that's another reason why it's important to have diverse opinions because our world is changing. I heard that somewhere else that a lot of these people making these laws actually didn't know that personalized ads paid more. So now that they know that, and now that we can respond and educate these law enforcers, we can create something that's gonna work for all of us and as a YouTube community. So let me know if you have any other questions, because I'm interested as much as you guys probably are for watching this video. Bye guys.